Another edition of In the Zone. It's been a few days, and I'm back at you again. We'll do some more college football preview. However, the news that rocked college football, we're going to start out with who was once a longtime Florida Seminoles coach, Florida State Seminoles coach, Bobby Bowden. The passing of one Bobby Bowden, the legendary Bobby Bowden. College football will never be the same without him. So we're going to go ahead and get on into that. Then we will look at the conclusion of the 15 things to watch for in the 2021 season. And we will also take another look at the ACC. But right now we're going to look at the Bobby Bowden story. Bobby Bowden, the longtime Florida State football coach who ranks second all-time in Division I wins, has died, the school announced Sunday morning. He was 91. My father passed away peacefully early this morning with all 6 of his children and my mother here by his side, Bowden's son Terry said in a statement. I couldn't have asked for a better personal mentor than my father. He was a wonderful husband and father. He relied on his strong Christian faith to provide the foundation for his life. I also was fortunate to be raised by a football coach who had a reputation for coaching the right way his entire career. He was admired by everyone who played for him or coached against him. Bobby Bowden was diagnosed with a terminal medical condition in July. He did not disclose what the condition was at the time, although Terry later told reporters that it was pancreatic cancer. I've always tried to serve God's purpose for my life on and off the field, and I am prepared for what it is to come, Bobby Bowden said in a statement announcing the condition. My wife Ann and our family have been life's greatest blessings. I am at peace. Bowden also dealt with what he called a tough bout of COVID-19 in 2020, which came a few days after returning to his Tallahassee home from a lengthy hospital stay for an infection in his leg. Florida State University has lost a legend in the passing of Bobby Bowden, University President John Thrasher said in a statement. On behalf of everyone at FSU, Gene and I extend our deepest condolences to Ann and the Bowden family. Coach Bowden built a football dynasty and raised the national profile of Florida State University, and he did it with class and a sense of humor. While he leaves an incredible legacy as one of the best football coaches in collegiate history, he also will be remembered for his great faith, his love of family, and his mentorship of countless young people. He will be profoundly missed. A public funeral service will be held for Bowden on Saturday on Florida State's campus. Public viewings will take place at FSU's Doak Campbell Stadium on Friday and on the campus of Samford University, his alma mater, on Sunday. Robert Clerker Bowden, better known as Bobby, was born in Birmingham, Alabama in 1929. He was a sickly child diagnosed with rheumatic fever and spending a great deal of his youth in bed. It was then, listening to radio broadcasts, that Bowden developed a love of football. He listened to Alabama games on the radio, and while football didn't cure Bowden, it certainly led to his life's calling. With his health in check, Bowden played football at Woodlawn High School with dreams of going to suit up for the Crimson Tide. And that he did, at quarterback, no less, but love eventually took precedence. Alabama's policy at the time was that freshmen couldn't get married, but Bowden really wanted to marry his high school sweetheart, Ann Estock. So he did, and he walked away from his Tide career as a result. He went on to play quarterback for Howard College, now Samford University. He also played baseball and ran track. After graduating, Bowden got his first coaching gig as an assistant at Howard. He parlayed that into another job, athletic director and head coach at two-year South Georgia College, which led him back to Howard as a head coach in 1959, where he'd coach until 1962. His coaching prowess grew in that span, as did his wanderlust to coach larger schools. His university division, now called Football Bowl Subdivision, start was actually with the Seminoles as wide receivers coach from 1963 to 65. He then went to West Virginia to serve as offensive coordinator from 1966 to 69. He was named head coach in 1970 and had a 42-26 record with the Mountaineers. The tragic Marshall plane crash in 1970 affected Bowden heavily in his first year as head coach. He petitioned the NCAA to wear Marshall jerseys and play their final game for them, but the NCAA said no. Instead, the players added green crosses and MU to their helmets. He said later that Marshall wanted him to be his next head coach, but in 1976, Bowden went to Florida State, mostly because it was warmer in Tallahassee and closer to his mother. His first year as head coach of the Seminoles wasn't his best. They went 5-6, but it was his only losing season in 34 seasons there. In 1977, the Seminoles got their first bowl invitation under Bowden, which would lead to 28 consecutive bowl appearances and national championships in 1993 and 1999. For 14 straight seasons, ending in 2000, the Seminoles won at least 10 games and finished ranked in the top 5 of the AP poll. His status as a Florida State legend and as a legend in college football as a whole was established in that span. He and Penn State coach Joe Paterno were neck and neck at numbers 1 and 2 on the winningest coaches list. In 2009, Bowden announced his retirement. The last years of his coaching career weren't stellar. Nothing lasts forever, does it? But I've had some wonderful years here at Florida State, you know it, Bowden said when announcing his retirement. Hadn't done as good lately as I wish I could have, but I've had wonderful years, no regrets. Current Seminoles coach Mike Norvell praised the character of Bowden on Sunday. Coach Bowden was one of the greatest coaches ever, but more than that, he was an incredible man, Norvell said in a statement. He was a special human being who earned an enduring legacy because of his wonderful heart, faith, and values he lived. It was an honor of my lifetime to know him, and beyond anything I could dream to have a relationship with him. We lost a great man in Coach Bowden today, said Texas A&M coach Jimbo Fisher, who took over at FSU as Bowden's successor in 2010. One of the finest gentlemen and coaches to ever walk the sideline. Just a tremendous human being with the lives he touched and the players he touched. That's his legacy. The last time we talked, we talked about that. He lived a full life. Alabama head coach Nick Saban spoke on Sunday of Bowden's selflessness. Probably one of the greatest ambassadors of all time, Saban said. He had success coaching, but was also one of the greatest people and set an outstanding example for everyone in our profession. Your example of being a good person is something that can help us all professionally. He wasn't always about him. He was always about helping other people. This is a very sad time for all of us, but Coach Bowden leaves a legacy a lot of us can continue to learn and grow from, and that will never be forgotten. Saban also shared a personal anecdote involving Bowden and spoke fondly of the former coach in a statement. Former FSU standout and Pro Football Hall of Famer Deion Sanders, now a coach himself, used Twitter to say goodbye to Bowden. He said, "God bless the Bowden family, friends, and loved ones. My prayers are with you. I've lost one of the best coaches I've ever had. One of Bowden's coaching rivals, former Florida Gators head coach Urban Meyer, took to Twitter to share his condolences. Urban Meyer, at Coach Urban Meyer. Today we lost a legend. Bobby was a great friend and mentor to me, and his impact transcended the coaching profession in so many ways. Sending love to Ann and the entire Bowden family. Rest in peace, Coach Bowden. Our hearts are heavy as we mourn the passing of Bobby Bowden. ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips said in a statement, the ACC, Florida State, and the entire college athletics family have lost a true giant. Coach Bowden was one of the most successful, humble, and endearing individuals who was also one of the most decorated college football coaches in history. Bowden finished his career with a win at the 2009 Gator Bowl. A few weeks later, the NCAA stripped Florida State of 12 wins from 2006 and 2007 when FSU was found to have committed athletic fraud. He's recognized as having 357 career wins, trailing only Paterno's 409. Bowden and his wife had 6 children, including 2 who became college football coaches, former Clemson coach Tommy Bowden and former Auburn coach Terry. A devout Christian, Bobby Bowden has a Fellowship of Christian Athletes Award named for him. He is also the namesake of the Bobby Bowden National Collegiate Coach of the Year Award as part of a football club in Birmingham. The first award of its type went to Saban, with Bowden presenting the award himself. Bowden was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 2006. So there you have the news of the passing, the life, and the legacy of Robert Clerker Bowden, a.k.a. Bobby, one of the greatest coaches of all times. Well, I'm going to take a pause, and I will be back with more. So stay locked into The Zone. This is Anthony. Welcome back to my next segment in The Zone. Last time I was with you, I had what was called 15 things to watch for in 2021. I've given you 1 through 10. So now what I'm going to do before I dig back into looking at the ACC, I am going to give you 11 through 15 as we look at the conclusion of 15 things to watch for in 2021 college football season. Number 11, Iowa State, aiming higher in Ames. Any way you slice it, 2020 was a banner year for Iowa State football. The Cyclones tied a school record for wins, 9, and posted the best conference record, 8-2, in the 123-year history of the program. They played in their first Big 12 championship game, a close loss to Oklahoma, and their first major bowl game, a win over Oregon in the Fiesta. They spent 3 weeks inside the AP Top 10, more than all previous ISU teams combined, and earned their highest poll finish by far, 9th, 10 spots better than the previous high in 1976. Head coach Matt Campbell ended his 5th season with the best overall winning percentage, .556, of anyone who's held the job. It's more than blue sky preseason patter when we tell you that their best may be ahead of them. Almost everyone who mattered last year is back, beginning with Campbell, who spurned the NFL in favor of a contract extension, as well as longtime coordinators Tom Manning, offense, and John Heacock, defense. The lineup is essentially intact, including 9 players who were voted first team All Big 12 by league coaches representing every position group on both sides of the ball. Among them, the most decorated quarterback in ISU history, senior Brock Purdy, the nation's leading rusher, All-American Breece Hall, and the conference leaders in receptions, wide receiver Xavier Hutchinson, tackles, linebacker Mike Rose, and sacks, defensive end Will McDonald V. For the first time since, ever, the Cyclones must be taken seriously as Big 12 contenders. Will it be the last time? Another big season will send Campbell's stock into the stratosphere, and the exodus of core talent at year's end could be the perfect moment to declare mission accomplished and make the leap, whether it's to the next level or to a more traditional power with a fresh vacancy. Michigan on line 2. If he's in it for the long haul at Iowa State, Campbell can't count on having another team that checks as many boxes as this one again anytime soon. Either way, at a place that hasn't claimed so much as a share of the conference title since 1912, the window to win big right now is much too rare to take for granted. Number 12, North Carolina, Howell for Heisman. In just 2 years on campus, Sam Howell has already carved his name at or near the top of North Carolina record book in almost every major passing category. First in career efficiency, first in yards per attempt, tied for first in touchdown passes, fifth in passing yards, assuming good health. The last one will likely fall around mid-season. As a sophomore in 2020, Howell joined Jameis Winston in his 2013 Heisman campaign as the only ACC quarterback ever to average more than 10 yards per attempt or post an efficiency rating above 175 over a full season. In the process, he led a previously stagnant program to the Orange Bowl and played his way into a lucrative NFL future. Is that enough to make him a legitimate Heisman Trophy candidate? For all his success on paper, in many ways, Howell has remained a regional star overshadowed by Trevor Lawrence as the ACC's standard bearer at the position. The Tar Heels' most visible game of 2020, a 31-17 loss to Notre Dame the day after Thanksgiving, was arguably his most pedestrian outing of the season, effectively killing whatever chance he had of playing his way into the Heisman conversation. In a race that prioritizes big game heroics and championship credentials above raw stats, Howell's name barely made a ripple. This year, his bid will hinge largely on his team's success. The schedule is friendly enough, offering up another high-profile shot at Notre Dame and a relatively straight path to the top of the ACC Coastal. Clemson is notably absent from the cross-division draw, setting up a potential showdown with the Tigers in the ACC championship game. The supporting cast to be determined. Outgoing starters at wide receiver, Demai Brown, Daz Newsome, and running back Michael Carter, Javonte Williams, accounted for more than 70% of the Heels' scrimmage yards each of the past 2 years. If the offense continues to average north of 500 yards and 40 points per game in their absence, Howell will have earned all the credit that comes his way. Number 13, Florida State, the Milton Miracle. If Mackenzie Milton takes a live rep this fall, it will be a miracle. The last time he was on the field in November 2018, Milton, then a 21-year-old junior at UCF, suffered a catastrophic knee injury that put his career on indefinite hiatus. Most of the subsequent updates on his recovery over the next 2 years implied he was unlikely to play again. But here he is, now a 23-year-old sixth-year senior at Florida State. Milton was fully cleared to participate in spring practice, went through non-contact drills without a hitch, and has a very real shot at starting the Seminoles season opener versus Notre Dame. If he looks anything like his old self in his new colors, it will be more than a miracle. It stands to reverse the recent trajectory of FSU football. The Noles' struggles behind center are well documented, with the revolving door at the position serving as a focal point for the program's broader descent into mediocrity. Nothing about last year's dismal 3-6 finish under first-year coach Mike Norvell suggested that the arrow was pointing up. In Milton, however, they landed a bona fide star who was 24-0 as a starter in 2017 through 18 and finished in the top 10 in Heisman voting both years. A return to anywhere near that level will go a long way toward reversing 4 years of steadily diminishing returns in Tallahassee and quite possibly make Milton's long-shot NFL ambitions a reality. No matter how it turns out, just absorbing the first hit will be a triumph in itself. Number 14, the most remarkable thing about BYU's breakthrough 2020 campaign might be that there even was a 2020 campaign. Without a conference slate to fall back on, the Cougars watched it helplessly last summer as COVID-19 wiped out essentially their entire schedule, including all 6 dates versus Power 5 opponents. The result was an experiment in improvised on-the-fly scheduling that at times gave the team as little as a few days to prepare for the next game. If the players felt disoriented, though, it never showed on the field. Behind prolific quarterback Zach Wilson, the Cougars won 11 of 12, averaged 43.5 points, and turned in BYU's highest finish in the AP poll, 11 since 1996. Resetting expectations for 2021 is a different challenge. Wilson is off to the NFL, leaving a huge void behind center, along with his top receiver, Dax Milne, and O-lineman All-American Brady Christensen. But the cupboard is hardly bare. The 5 returning starters at the skill positions combined to account for nearly 4,000 yards and 39 touchdowns. Besides the new quarterback, the biggest concerns are the defense, which lost 6 of its top 8 players in terms of snap counts, and a full-strength schedule with 7 games versus Power 5 opponents. Then again, only one there, USC, finished ranked in 2020, and all 7 are potentially beatable. Returning to earth from the heights of a historic season may be a given. A crash landing is not. And now, number 15. Guess you could save the worst for last. Kansas, from bad to worse. Even by Kansas standards, 2020 was a disaster. The Jayhawks limped to an 0-9 record in Les Miles' second season as head coach with 7 losses by 21 points or more. Against all odds, the offseason has been worse. In March, Miles was fired over reports of misconduct during his tenure at LSU, a controversy that also claimed the job of his boss, athletic director Jeff Long. The team was left to go through spring drills under an interim head coach, Emmett Jones, with no sense of direction for the fall. As of this writing, KU has yet to announce a full-time hire. I have to make a correction there. Lance Leipold from the University of Buffalo. Whoever does take the job will inherit the most potentially hopeless situation of any Power 5 program. The Jayhawks are more than a decade removed from their last winning season in 2008, in which time they've hired and inevitably fired 4 different head coaches without making so much as a dent in the pattern of futility. Miles, whose stature was supposed to lend some semblance of stability, somehow managed to leave a deeper hole than he found. For the right coach, the nowhere to go but up outlook might have a certain appeal. Kansas hasn't always been a doormat and won't be one forever. Eventually, the Jayhawks will crawl their way back to respectability. But for 2021, they're every bit as entrenched on the bottom as Alabama and Clemson are at the top. So before I get into my ACC talk, I'm going to take another break. But stay tuned to In the Zone. Always stay locked in. And I will be back with more. Welcome back to In the Zone. As we get closer to the college football season, giving you a college football preview, and we're going to continue with the ACC. We've already looked at Boston College, and we've also looked at Clemson. So now we're going to take a look at Florida State Seminoles, as the national forecast has them at 43, the ACC at 98 prediction, 4 projected record, 6-6 with a 4-4 record in the ACC. The Florida Seminoles are coached by head coach Mike Norvell, and he was 3-6 in his first year. Career record 41-21, 5 years coaching. Offensive coordinator Kenny Dillingham, defensive coordinator Adam Fuller. Location Tallahassee, Florida. Stadium Doak Campbell Stadium, which seats 79,560. Key Seminoles, Amari Gaynor, linebacker, led the team in tackles despite starting only 5 of 9 games. Gaynor has bulked up to become an every down player. Lawrence Tafili, running back, averaged 9.6 yards per carry as a freshman in 2020, but needs to show he can stay healthy. Devontae Love Taylor, offensive lineman, most versatile and best all-around lineman, could start at either tackle or guard position. Key losses: Ashantae Samuel Jr., cornerback, started 23 games in 3 seasons, earned first-team All-ACC honors in 2020 after recording 3 interceptions. Hamza Nasruddin, safety, played in only 2 games last fall after returning from an injury, but was the team's top tackler in 2018 and 19. Marvin Wilson, defensive tackle, was expected to be leader of defense, but knee injury limited production and forced him to miss the final 3 games. Rising star, freshman receiver Malik McClain, was one of FSU's highest rated signees in the 2021 class and lived up to the hype with a very impressive spring. He was the top receiver in several practices and scrimmages and hauled in a 44-yard touchdown in the spring game. So let's take a look at this Florida Seminoles team. Technically, Mike Norvell is entering his 2nd season as Florida State's head coach. In a lot of ways, though, it feels an awful lot like year 1. In 2021, for the first time, Norvell was able to lead the Seminoles through a full month of spring practice in March and April. The strength coaches were able to guide FSU's players through their first full off-season conditioning program, and the coordinators got to implement their offensive and defensive systems in person instead of in virtual meetings. While every college football program was adversely impacted by the coronavirus pandemic in 2020, the toll was greater on first-year coaches such as Norvell, who barely had a chance to see what their players could do before being forced to send them home for several months. And the challenge was magnified in Norvell's case because FSU's program has experienced varying degrees of dysfunction going back to the latter part of Jimbo Fisher's tenure, which ended in 2017. Now that Norvell has had a normal year to prepare, while also replenishing the depth chart with a number of high-profile transfers, the Seminoles are hopeful for a substantial improvement over last year's 3-6 record, which marked a once unthinkable third consecutive losing season for a proud program. Offense. The arrival of former UCF quarterback Mackenzie Milton was the story of the offseason for FSU, but it's far from a foregone conclusion that he'll be the starter. Returning starter Jordan Travis, who impressed mostly with his running ability in 2020, 559 yards, 5.8 yards per carry, 7 rushing TDs, showed growth as a passer in the spring and likely has the inside track. Milton was a Heisman contender at UCF, but hasn't played in a game since sustaining a career-threatening leg injury in 2018. After shaking off some rust, Milton shined in the spring game. It should be a legitimate battle in preseason camp. The run game was the strength of FSU's offense in Norvell's first season. The Noles ranked 4th in the ACC in yards per carry with 5.1, and that likely will continue in 2021 with steady Jayshon Corbin and dynamic youngster Lawrence Tofili leading the way. Tofili, 9.6 yards per carry, has home run ability. The backs will be helped by an improving offensive line, which returns everyone but may still be looking to add another veteran transfer. The biggest concern is at wide receiver, where the Noles appeared neither dynamic nor consistent. Top returning targets, Ontaria Wilson, Keyshawn Helton, and tight end Cameron McDonald all averaged less than 13 yards per catch last fall. There is hope from Kansas transfer Andrew Parchment and freshman Malik McClain, Destin Hill, and Joshua Burrell. Defense. After seeing 5 players from an already subpar defense leave for the NFL, the Seminoles wasted no time making a splash in the transfer portal. They landed a pair of SEC defensive linemen in Jermaine Johnson, Georgia, and Kier Thomas, South Carolina, and they grabbed 3 FBS defensive backs. Former South Carolina safety Jamie Robinson, who had 74 tackles last fall, is penciled in as the starting nickelback, while Jarquez McCleon, Arkansas, and Brandon Moore, UCF, will factor into the DB rotation as well. Based on spring practice, Johnson will be the most impactful of the transfers. The 5th-year senior, who recorded 5 sacks last season at Georgia, was dominant in practices and scrimmages and will attempt to breathe life into a pass rush that was anemic in 2020. But coordinator Adam Fuller is going to need more than impact transfers to salvage a defense that ranked 105th in both yards per play allowed, 6.5, and scoring defense, 36 points per game. Specialists. Norvell places a major emphasis on the kicking game, and the Seminoles have room for improvement in that department. Dueling place kickers Ryan Fitzgerald and Parker Growthhouse each were given an opportunity last fall, and they each connected on just 4 field goals. They battled to a draw again in the spring. The Seminoles will look for a spark in the return game after putting up pedestrian numbers on both kickoffs, 20.8 yards average, and punts, 8 returns with none longer than 10 yards. It wasn't all bad for special teams, however. Australian punter Alex Mastromano was solid as a freshman, 43.5 yard average, and the Seminoles did a nice job of covering kickoffs and punts. They also blocked 5 kicks on the year. Final analysis. After a tumultuous first year under Norvell, FSU's roster has been purged of many of the disgruntled or disillusioned older players who originally signed to play for Fisher or Willie Taggart. That's the good news. The bad news is that it's going to take some time to raise the talent level to compete with better teams in the ACC, let alone the country. The offense should be solid in 2021, but likely not spectacular. The defense will need to make major improvements to approach respectability. A win-loss record of somewhere around 500 wouldn't satisfy FSU fans in most years, but it would be nice. It would be a clear step in the right direction, and the Noles haven't made many of those of late. So there you have a look at Florida State. Up next on the chart, how about those Cardinals from Louisville with their national forecast at 45, ACC Atlantic predictions number 5, projected record 7-5, 4-4 in the ACC. They're coached by Scott Satterfield, record at the school 12-12 in 2 years, career record 63-36, 8 years of coaching. Offensive coordinator Scott Satterfield, defensive coordinators Brian Brown and Court Dennison. They're located in Louisville, Kentucky. They play at Cardinal Stadium, which seats 61,000. Key Cardinals: Malik Cunningham, quarterback, failed to progress last season while throwing a dozen interceptions, but remains a run-pass threat. Marshawn Ford, tight end, former walk-on, became consistent red zone threat, scoring touchdowns on 6 of his 25 receptions. C.J. Avery, linebacker, fierce sideline to sideline hitter who led the team in solo and assisted tackles while playing with an edge. Key losses: Javion Hawkins, running back, led the team in rushing in back-to-back seasons, even though he did not play in the final 4 games last season. Tutu Atwell, wide receiver, big play receiver who always flashed his crackling speed in averaging 13.6 yards per reception. Rajay Burns, linebacker, smart, instinctive team leader who finished second in tackles and was consistently in position to make plays. Rising star, tackle, Trevor Reed, was the most improved offensive player during the spring. His improved footwork and strength impressed coaches, as did his ability to complete a backflip at 6'5", 305 pounds. Scott Satterfield says he is one of the best athletes on the team. Louisville head coach Scott Satterfield has slipped into a prove-it situation in his 3rd season with the Cardinals. Louisville went 8-5 in 2019, then slid to 4-7. 4 coaches departed staff. 2 top offensive players left for the NFL without finishing the 2020 season. Satterfield was motivated to write a letter of apology to Louisville season ticket holders after his bungled effort to be involved with the South Carolina job. The gap between Louisville and Clemson has grown in the Atlantic Division, but the Cards must also climb back over NC State and Boston College while trying to replace their 3 most dynamic offensive playmakers. The outlook is cloudier than a year ago. The offense. After offensive coordinator Dwayne Ledford left for the Atlanta Falcons, Satterfield decided that he would direct the Louisville offense. His first job will be fixing quarterback Malik Cunningham. A year after performing like the 3rd best quarterback in the ACC, Cunningham had a season to flush. Not only did he throw a dozen interceptions, but Cunningham also lost 3 fumbles. At his best, Cunningham is a solid mid-range passer as well as a formidable runner. At the level he played last season, Cunningham is at risk of being replaced by Evan Conley or Luke McCaffrey, who transferred from Nebraska. The quarterback needs to set the tone on turnovers. The Cards committed 24, leaving them number 119 nationally in turnover margin at -12. Like Cunningham, halfback Hassan Hall also backslid last season as his yardage slipped from 501 to 223. Satterfield praised Hall's spring energy, and he is positioned to start the season ahead of Jalen Mitchell and Maurice Berkeley. Tutu Atwell and Dez Fitzpatrick supply 60% of the Cards' receiving yards and half of their 20 touchdowns. It will require a collaborative effort from a crop of unproven options to replace them. Braden Smith is not a game breaker, but has sure hands and runs solid routes. Justin Marshall had a solid spring, but the wild card is Shea Wertz, a graduate transfer from Georgia Southern, who agreed to transition from quarterback to receiver. Tight end Marshawn Ford arrived as a walk-on and has developed into one of the best in the ACC. He excelled in the red zone, contributing 6 touchdown receptions. His only question is a return from shoulder surgery. The offensive line is another mystery, because that is the group coached by Ledford, who was a favorite of the players. There is plenty of experience, but look for Virginia Tech graduate transfer Brian Hudson and junior tackle Trevor Reed to force their way into the groups, which needs to display more athleticism. The defense. For the first time in 4 seasons, Louisville ranked in the top half of the ACC in total defense. The Cards were the only ACC defensive unit to limit opponents to fewer than 200 yards passing per game, leaving co-coordinator Brian Brown with the task of improving the run defense. Defensive ends Yaya Diaby and Tavarius Peterson gave the Cardinals pass rush the edge it had been missing, showing an ability to seal the edge and collapse the pocket. Malik Clark figures to get the first shot at those tackles for the departed Jared Goldwire XL. Linebacker remains the strength of the unit. After leading the Cards in tackles in consecutive seasons, C.J. Avery returns for a 5th season on the weak side. Middle linebacker Monte Montgomery flashed potential with a 13-tackle game against Notre Dame. Outside linebacker Yasir Abdullah finished strong with 24 tackles in the last 5 games. The talented Marvin Dallas, who missed most of last season with injuries, has the edge to fill the final spot. Brown has work to do in the secondary, where 3 starters have departed. Catrell Clark transferred from Liberty and started as a man-to-man coverage guy. The other cornerback spot is likely to go to Chandler Jones over freshman Jamal Starks. Kendrick Duncan, a first-team All-Sun Belt performer at Georgia Southern, brings size and experience to free safety. A pair of freshmen, Lovie Jenkins and Benjamin Perry, are the front-runners to play strong safety, although Jenkins was suspended in late April after he was charged in relation to an alleged domestic violence incident. Specialists. After struggling on special teams last season, Louisville joined the trend of recruiting a punter from Australia, signing Mark Bassett, a 24-year-old former construction worker who decommitted from Michigan State. Kicker James Turner showed terrific accuracy, nailing all 40 extra points as well as 13 of 15 field goals. Hassan Hall and Braden Smith are likely to split the job of returning kickoffs. Punt returns will not be settled until fall camp. Final analysis. Satterfield has work to do fixing the offense, upgrading the defense, and repairing his relationship with fans. Cunningham must improve his accuracy and decision-making without the safety net of his 2 favorite receivers. Defensively, Louisville should continue to improve, but it's not a group with elite ACC talent. The Cards will need breaks and good health to finish on the right side of 500. Well, if you hear the music playing, which means this episode of In the Zone is coming to an end. However, I will be back tomorrow with some more as we basically look at the ACC. So I will give you more ACC teams tomorrow as we got some of the preliminaries out of the way. But this is yours truly, Anthony, on In the Zone, bringing this session to an end. But I encourage you, as you listen to this, leave your comments, leave remarks, download this podcast, follow me, like it. But whatever you do, always stay locked in the zone. Until the next time, take care of yourself. God bless.